Technology. It never works. Hello. Yo napot min denki. I hope I got that right. Close enough? Yeah, there we go. So, today we're going to talk about the very future of your organizations. We're going to talk about what it means to be the next generation company in the 21st century. We're going to use examples and stories from organizations all around the world today, and we'll make it real as to how you can take this away and start to apply that in your teams, in your divisions, and in your organizations. So let me start with a very short why. Right? As Simon Sinek says, start with why. Since 1983, the Fortune 100 companies in America have literally stopped existing. From 1983 to 1993 to 2013, 57 of the Fortune 100 companies no longer exist. They have either gone bankrupt, they have been acquired, either forcibly or otherwise, they have gone through mergers, or they have just faded into obscurity. When we talk about business agility, this is fundamentally the reason why it's important to you and pretty much everything that we're talking about today. But I don't just want to talk to you, I want you to understand it very personally. It's also after lunch, which anyone who's a speaker knows the after lunch slot is the worst, because all the blood that was up here is now here, right? Quite amply in my place, because it was a very delicious lunch. But I'm going to get you thinking and a little bit of movement. We're going to play a game. Can I get the house lights up? This is called the pen game. It's a very simple game. You're going to form into, there's not a lot of space, so small teams, just the people around you, but just make sure that every single person in that team, or sorry, at least one person has a pen in that little group. There are 3 rules. Right? Has anyone played the pen game before? Fantastic. There are 3 rules. Rule number 1, right? You have to pass the pen in the air, right? Because that is, and you get a point every time you pass, catch. Fantastic, good catch. Rule number 2. If you drop the pen, your score resets to 0. Rule number 3, we're an agile team. What does that mean? We collaborate. Everyone's going to work together. So, stand up, find a team. We're going to take one minute just to quickly organize, self-organize. There we go. Now, if I can get everyone's attention for a second, there is a 4th rule. There's a 4th rule. If I put my hand in the air, you stop what you're doing, you stop talking, and you put your hand in the air. If you see anybody's hand in the air, you face the front, you stop talking, and you put your hand in the air. I'm not going to yell, I'm not going to whistle, that's how we're going to regain control. Okay? So, this is still we're going to do 3 iterations. All right? 3 sprints. A sprint is going to be about 45 seconds long. Remember, 3 rules. Has to pass in the air. If it drops, it goes to 0. And, of course, everyone has to participate. Your time starts now. Oh, someone went to 0. There, down to 0. Down to 0. Come on, I'm watching. All right, 10 seconds left. And stop. All right, fantastic. Now, all right, what was your score? Couldn't count. 21. Who beat 21? What did you get? 40. Who beat 40? All right, 47. Okay. The score to beat is 47. We're agile. What does that mean? We have a retrospective. You have 30 seconds. Talk amongst yourselves. How are you going to get better? How are you going to double 47? Remember, 3 rules. It has to pass in the air. If it drops, it goes to 0. And everyone has to participate. All right. Iteration 2. You have 45 seconds. It begins in 3, 2, 1, go. And stop. All right. Who beat 47? What did you get? 40. No, I said beat 47. What did you get? 57. Who beat 57? Shout it out. What did you get? 90. All right. Who beat 90? All right. Quickly. You got 30 seconds. How are you going to beat 90? I gave you the rules. All right, very clear. All right, pass in the air. Everyone has to touch it. If it drops, your score goes to 0. And of course, everyone has to participate. How are you going to beat 90? All right. 30 seconds are up. You'd better be paying attention. All right. Iteration 3. Iteration 3 begins. You have... Wait. If you don't pay attention, you won't know when it starts. I'm going to... Thank you. All right. Iteration 3 begins in 3, 2, 1, go. Down to 0. Ten seconds. Down to 0. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're done. So, who beat 90? What did you get? Huh? 170. Who beat 170? All right, sit down. All right, who beat 170? No. 117? What'd you get? 144. Who beat 144? Congratulations. Round of applause. But, all right, let me let you in the rules of the game. All right. First of all, this is all about improvement. All right? What was the first scores you got? All right? 20, 44, I think was the highest. If I'd given you 3 minutes and say, go, you wouldn't have got, at best you would have got 3 times 44. All right? You wouldn't have got to 140. I ran this with a group of marketers who are by their nature highly creative. Do you know what the total score was? Or the biggest score in the room? 4,500. Right? So first of all, I never said only 1 pen. So there's the trick. But second, think about how creative you got. Right? I saw people with hands interlinked dropping pens. I saw people building funnels and dropping them. Right? The whole point of agility in an organization or in a team is about finding new and creative ways. I gave you the rules. Right? If I'm in IT, I gave you the user stories. But how you execute them, how you get better and better at executing them, that's your choice, not mine. And in fact, that's the key point about everything we're going to talk about today. So that little game is everything you need to know about agility in about 5 minutes. But I want to talk not just about team agility, but organization and business agility. So at the very center of business agility is the customer. They are who we do our business for. And this is critically important because think about your KPIs. Think about the most important measures of your organization. Right? I guarantee they're about money if you're a profit organization. I guarantee you probably have one on customer satisfaction, but nobody gets fired if customer satisfaction doesn't. If the target's 7, no one gets fired if it's 6. You don't meet your revenue targets, you're probably not going to have a job tomorrow. So this is the problem with a lot of organizations, because even though they say the customer is the most important thing, they don't actually mean it. An agile organization is one where the customer drives our purpose. We do not become doctors in order to make money. We become doctors to heal the sick, to save lives. We have to make money to continue to become a doctor, to continue to heal the sick and save lives. Money and revenue and profit is a good thing. We do need to have it, right? But it is not our purpose. It is not the reason that we exist. And that's something that every organization, for every agile organization, understands. Right? Look at companies like Southwest Airlines and put the way that the engagement that they have. Companies like Birdsong or Morningstar. Companies even like Valve in the computer game industry. Right? These are companies who know who their customer is and know why they are in business. And everything aligns to that. And in fact, I will talk a little bit when I get to structural agility, that how you as an organization express that customer purpose is highly, it can get very core into the way you actually run and structure your company. So for full disclosure, I used to work for IBM as of about 3 weeks ago, so very recently. And I'm going to share with you a couple of things that we were doing in order to try and become more customer-centric. But it fundamentally comes down to trust. Oops, okay, the P dropped off. So think about this in terms of a relationship that you have. If you're going to hire a handyman, if you're going to hire someone to come in and help renovate your kitchen, first of all, you're going to Google, right? Best handyman in Budapest. And you're going to get a list of people and recommendations. You'll ask your neighbor. This is what we call reference trust. It's reference trust because I trust you based on a reference, a referral, from someone who I hopefully trust, a friend, a neighbor, Yelp, right? And then I go, yep, you're the one for me. Up you get, thank you very much. Let's do this work together. But then we get to contract-based trust. I trust you because we have a contract, because there are penalties and that you will do what the contract says. I'm not going to be agile. I'm not going to allow flexibility and variation in a relationship where I'm only limited to contract-based trust. But then we go up a level. We go to identification-based trust. I trust you because I have experience with you. Congratulations. All right, so now when it's time for me to renovate my bathroom, I'm going to come to you. And this is when I can be agile. This is when I can come to you and go, I've got $10,000. All right, what can we do for that? If I don't know you, if I don't trust you, I'm not going to tell you my budget because I don't know if you say it's going to cost 10,000, I don't know if it will really cost 10 or whether it will cost 3, but you're only saying 10 because I told you that's how much money I had. But once I trust you, once I've got that experience with you, then we can start to be agile. I don't need the contract. We may still have a contract because we're not stupid, right? But the contract becomes an enabler. It is not the restriction. And this is one of the key points around business agility and around how organizations everywhere in the world are starting to work all around trusted partnerships, trusted relationships, and networks of individuals. So that's about why. We are an agile organization because our customer is our heart. They are the very center of who we are, and they're the very center of what we do. But let's go a little bit into the what. What is it? Now, the problem with a word like business agility is that it's a great buzzword. Every single vendor out there is selling you something to enable business agility. Why? Because that's what they can do. Because you want business agility, you don't know what it is, but buy our latest cloud software. That will enable business agility. No, it won't. It'll do like 5% at best. Right? So understanding business agility, this is why this is not my model. This was done by the community. There was about 60 of us who worked on this. The purpose was to understand and articulate the full scope. So when someone says we want to be an agile organization, then this is what it means. So there are 3 dimensions: work, connections, and mindset. The work dimension relates to literally how you work. So hands up. Who here is using agile, Scrum, Kanban, Safe, Less right now? All right, so I would say probably about 2/3 of you. Fantastic. All right. Of those who didn't put your hand up, all right, hands up if you have a passing familiarity with the concept. Yeah, most of you again. So I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about agile. That's not the point. If you have questions, feel free to come up and ask me or just Google. Honestly, everything you can find out, you can find on Google. But the ways of working relate very much to capital A, agile. So technical agility is the first of the domains. This relates to how hands on keyboard, and I see a lot of you with hands on keyboard right now, hands on keyboard, how do you work in an agile way? This is the domain of processes and frameworks like XP or DevOps in the technology space. But here's a question. If I'm an accountant or a marketer, can I have technical agility? Bloody hell, yes, you can. All right? Beyond budgeting, agile marketing, these are my way as a marketer, as an accountant, of being agile in the work that I do, in the creation of budgets, in the creation of marketing campaigns. It doesn't have to be technology. This is technical in the terms of technique, not technical as in technology. Let's be absolutely clear on this. The second domain is what we call process agility. Think of this as the value stream. This is the domain of Scrum or Kanban. This is the domain of all of those steps and things you put in place in order to achieve an outcome. Actually, sorry, an output, usually. Right? So we want process agility. Think about the pen game. Did you get a higher score when you came closer together? Yes, pretty much all of you, because I saw most of you starting a bit further apart and then coming into closer clusters. Right? This is true of your process, because process is a wonderful thing because it allows something to be repeated, it allows some sort of continuity, and it allows for a level of quality. But we have created these process bureaucratic monsters where the work that we do, where the ways in which we do that work have become the reason for how we do it. It's a cyclic mentality. Process helps to enable. We want to remove every single bottleneck from that process. And that means localized decision making. That means, there was that word that they didn't like to hear, self-organized teams. Right? Process agility means making the team accountable for the work that they're doing and then giving them the authority and the autonomy to make it happen. And that's fundamental to business agility. If your process stops you, then it's the wrong process. And it doesn't, once again, have to be technology. Right? Netflix. We all love Netflix. Right? Do you know what their travel policy is? 5 words. Act in Netflix's best interest. That's a process. I don't need to follow 20 prescribed steps to achieve an outcome, right? Because I have trust. Because there are certain behaviors that we expect. Trust, process agility, they all come together. Enterprise agility. This is the domain of safe and less and beyond budgeting. This is where agile starts to scale across the organization. So with apologies to Eli Goldratt, I want to introduce Evans' theory of agile constraints. The theory of constraints says that in any process, there is a constraining, and there will always be a constraining factor. Once upon a time, that constraining factor was for agility, right? That was IT. Right? In a manufacturing sense, right? If I'm attaching doors to a car, there's no point in making the wheel or the windscreen process more efficient because I'm constrained by how quickly I can put doors on the car. In terms of agility, in terms of the way that we work, that defines, that constraint defines how fast or how agile we can go. And that is fundamentally where enterprise agility comes in. Because once upon a time, that was IT, that was software. And so we invent Scrum. Fantastic. Now we can deploy change every 2 weeks. Right? And then fast forward 10 years. Where's the constraint? We can make a change every 2 weeks, but we still have a 3-month deployment process. So what do? Introducing DevOps. Fantastic. Now we have an engine that can make a change every 2 weeks, right? A deployment system that can deploy every 11.3 seconds if you're Amazon, and a finance process that's 18 months long. You tell me where the constraining factor to agility in your organization is. It is none of you. Right? You are probably not the constraining factor right now. Enterprise agility is what you need to be able to work with those different domains, work with those different divisions in your organization to enable them to be agile so that the organization can start to be agile. And this fundamentally comes to this. It's not about how much something costs, it's about what it is worth. And I will come to that in a second. Because I want to quickly touch on the third domain. And I'm going to spend most of the time here. Because this domain, this is the most important one. Oh, no, sorry, let me rephrase that. This is the one that organizations struggle with. It's not the most important, that was a mistake. This is the one that most organizations struggle with. It's easy to be agile. It's easy to be capital A agile. Because that touches the way that we work. That touches the simple stuff, the simple measures. But now let's talk about the very organizational DNA that you have. So let's start with your leaders and your leadership. What does an agile leader look like? What are the characteristics of an agile leader? Right? Who here is a manager or a leader in your organization? Hands up. Big, hands up. Fantastic. Okay, hands up again. If you delegate, if you know how to delegate. All right. Now, keep your hands up. Put your hands down if this is what you do. All right? Can you give me this this PowerPoint presentation by Friday? No one. A couple of you. Yeah, there we go. You're honest. Okay, put your hands down. So this is the problem with delegation. We tend to delegate an output, an action. I need you to do this. That is not delegation. Right? Or it is, but it's the wrong kind of delegation. An agile leader is one that will delegate an outcome. It's not, I need a presentation by Friday. It's, I need you to win this deal. And if you can do that by creating a presentation, or maybe you decide you want to do a prezi, or maybe you decide you want to do a song and a dance, it doesn't matter. Right? Because you are accountable, you have authority, you have autonomy, in order to achieve that outcome, that business outcome. And that actually brings us to structural agility because we define teams around outcomes. And this is where companies fail all the time today. Right? We are in a world of, to use a term, mostly orange organizations. Right? These are hierarchical organizations built around a functional structure. I'm the head of IT. Under me, I've got the head of development, the head of quality, and the head of the PMO. Under them, we have all the project managers, we have all the testers, we have all the developers. Fantastic. Now what do? Let's create a matrix structure. We need to do a project. I'm going to take 3 people from each of these organizations. We're going to come together and we're going to build a project. Not to mention the fact that we're going to call upon these other services in the organization because that's how work gets done. What does that mean? It means Evan, who's a developer in that organization, right? Evan has a minimum of 2 to 3 managers. And if you actually draw out the network map of the people who can tell you what to do, you probably have more like 10 to 12. This is not an organization that can be nimble. This is not an organization that will survive and be one of the 43% of Fortune 100 companies that still exist. Right? This is an organization that will die because you're unable to move quickly. And that is where structural agility comes in. And this is important because you need to understand that the future of your organizations is not around these functional silos, but it's around outcome teams. Teams that are formed around a business outcome. And we were doing this in Singapore. We had an account team. The account working with a client, what do? We design our teams by default from the inside out. These are our products and services. So we're going to form teams around our products and services, and then we're going to try and sell them. Fantastic. No, that's stupid. That doesn't work. Why doesn't it work? Because the customer isn't structured the way that you are. The customer doesn't think about your products and services the same way you do. They have a need. They have a journey that they are on. You need to define your organization around their journey, around the structure that they will buy, because that is success. I'll give you another example, working with a marketing organization in the US. And how does marketing work? So this isn't IT at all. This is literally doing campaigns and billboard ads. Right? This is a banking and insurance organization. So a product, a credit card product says, I need you to sell more of our credit cards. So the marketing organizations build a campaign and sends it out. But you don't buy based on that. You buy a credit card because you need a credit card. So a good marketing organization, and this is what they were trying to become, is one that will go, I want to sell to you when you're ready to buy. Right? Not when we're ready to sell. So we're going to create, and what they were doing journey thinking. So what is your journey? You're on a journey to buy a car. Fantastic. That means if you're buying a car, if you're in that mindset, I'm going to market to you. I'm going to sell you a car loan, and then 3 weeks later, I'm going to sell you car insurance. All right? You're on a journey. You're going on a holiday. Fantastic. All right? If I try and sell you a mortgage and you're going on holiday, I'm going to throw that in the bin because that's completely useless. So instead, I know you're going on holiday. Or rather, I touch you where you're looking about going on holiday. So I'm going to start trying to sell you a miles credit card or travel insurance. There's all sorts of things that we can then do once we start designing our organization around the customer and how the customer thinks and interacts with us. This is when we talk about being the customer being our purpose. An agile organization is one where that purpose embeds itself in the very DNA, in the very structure of the organization. Which then brings us to market agility. Because this is how we are agile in the market. This is how we adapt and thrive in an uncertain environment. Whatever your political leanings, right, whatever your opinions of what is going on in England and America right now, the one thing we can all agree on is that it is unpredictable, that it is uncertain. And if you are an organization that built a 5-year plan and is trying to operate off that, first of all, that was out of date 3 months after you built it. And second, it doesn't work. It never worked. So what we want is we want to build an organization that can thrive in a market that's unknown. So I was doing work with a bank. I do a lot of work with banks. Right? Working with their C-suite. And they wanted a strategic plan. Right? We managed to convince them that they don't want a strategic plan. They want a goal, a strategic vision, a strategic direction to head towards, and then they want a plan to plan. They want to be able to have the systems and the processes in place that they can adapt to the market, but still continue to head towards the goal that they have set. And actually, this was a very interesting case because they... what's the first thing you do when you do strategic planning? You look at your competitors. You look at the market environment that you're operating in. This bank, when we drew up the competitors, right, do you know who they wrote down? Because it wasn't other banks. Right? 5 years earlier, when they'd last done this, it was like Standard Chartered, OCBC, HSBC. No. Their competitors, the ones that they see as the biggest threat, Apple, Amazon, Alibaba, Google. Right? These are companies that weren't even on their radar 5 years ago. This is market agility. Right? Another example of market agility. So the banks in Singapore, that spent the last 3 years living in Singapore, had a fairly decent revenue stream on remittance, international remittance. I'm Indian, I'm Filipino, I'm Australian, I live in Singapore, and I send money home. Great stuff. Where do I go? I go to the bank. I go to the bank. Hi, here's my $1,000. Here's the account code. Da, da, da. Can you please send it? 3 to 5 days later, it would turn up. Right? They don't have that revenue stream anymore. In the last 3 to 5 years, there have been a number of fintech organizations, small startups, which have emerged in Singapore, and in fact everywhere in the world, who now do international remittance cheaper, faster, better than the banks ever could. And the banks were blindsided because no strategic plan had these small organizations listed down as competitors. So when they entered the market, the banks were unprepared. And so within 6 months, and this is where social networks come in, I don't mean like Facebook, I mean like communication social networks. These social networks are fantastic because I go to my friend, hey, you should try this product. It's cheaper and better than the bank. You're going to listen to me because we have identification-based trust. Right? You probably don't have that with the bank. And so the banks lost 1% to 3% of their bottom line within a year just because they lost an entire product line because they were outcompeted by companies that they didn't expect to exist. So that is true market agility. So in the last 5 minutes, I want to talk about the mindset dimension. This is one that it's been covered a lot in this conference, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. But I will say that there are 3 characteristics of an agile organization from a cultural perspective. Point number 1, a learning mindset. Right? Now, once upon a time, for my sins, I was a project manager. Right? I know. We all go through that phase. So, as a project manager, what was one of the documents, templates I had to fill in? The lessons learned report. Right? We ended up calling them lessons observed reports because no one learnt anything from it. We wrote down, we stuck it in a filing cabinet, and we never looked at it again. That was the $1 million filing cabinet. It was literally a filing cabinet that we printed documents. This was government. Everything was filed. Right? There was $1 million worth of documents that we had written, but that we never looked at again. Right? If it had burnt to the ground, we wouldn't have even noticed. That's not a learning organization. That's not one that has a learning mindset. A learning mindset is where we're able to take those ideas and those observations and fundamentally apply them to who we are and how we work. The collaboration mindset then approaches how we interact with one another. I spoke about structural agility. I spoke about creating teams around outcomes, around journeys, rather than around functions or products or projects. The collaboration mindset is then how we go, I'm willing to help you. I'm willing to get off my ass and do something that will put an imposition on me because it will help you. And because the goodwill that I will accrue is not only the right thing to do, but I know that you will then help me in the future. And that collaboration mindset is what builds strong networks, strong communities. Right? That's what builds the network organization, the organization, the company that can thrive when there's uncertainty. If I don't have uncertainty, if I don't have unpredictability, I can happily do my own work, hand it off to you when it's needed, because I don't need to plan for something going to change. But I guarantee none of you are in those sort of organizations anymore. You might think you are, right? But 10 years ago, right, the banks thought they were untouchable. Right? The banks are running scared. Today, I will tell you organizations that are running scared include engineering companies. Who would have thought that a big established engineering company could be outcompeted by a startup? Right? But with the advent or the popularity, I should say, because it's been around for a couple of decades, of 3D printing and desktop CNC mills, right? We have high-quality R&D engineering being done in garages, right? And not in industrial labs. Biochemistry, biology, genetics, right? The cost of entry, the barrier to entry in these is going down. Right? So the collaboration mindset in your organization, this is how you thrive. The last one, an ownership agility, or an ownership mindset, that should be. An ownership mindset is one that takes pride in the work that you're doing. And this is getting really loud. That's really important because I love what I do. Right? No, I'm going to correct what I just said. It's not about it's not about doing what you love. Doing what you love is no guarantee of a job. Doing what you love means you're putting yourself first. I'm not going to do that because I don't enjoy doing it. All right? That's selfish, egotistical. All right? However, you do need to find the way to love what you do. You need to find the way that you take the products and services and all the different things that you create and find the passion in that. Now, if you can find no passion in anything that you're doing, it is probably time to find a new career. But if you can spend that little bit of time to look internally and go, I'm going to take ownership for this. I'm going to take accountability for this because I love it. Because it is important to me and important to the organization, and most importantly, is important to our customer. Right? And that, my friends, is how you create ownership agility. Pride, accountability, it cuts very deep. It is something that comes, it's reason it's around a mindset and a culture, is it's at the heart of who you are and how you work. So find a way to love what you do. Don't necessarily restrict yourself to doing what you love. So in the last minute or so I've got, I just want to talk very briefly around the domains as a whole. Business agility is not something that you create for fun. Right? It's not easy. Right? If you go and say, oh, we've done Scrum training, fantastic. Do you know what Scrum is? Scrum gives you process agility and maybe a little bit of learning agility. Right? A Scrum organization is not an agile organization. Right? It's not an adaptable, nimble organization. It has some characteristics of it, but it is not enough. Right? You have to, if you want to be adaptable, nimble, agile in the market, then you need a little bit of all of this. We are in the process of building a business agility body of knowledge, and we're currently looking for case studies. If any of you or any of your organizations have some interesting stories in this space, please come and have a chat with me after this, because I definitely want to hear your stories and to get them and give them a forum to be shared. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Seriously, Anonymous? Okay. Did Prezi pay you to write that?
Or was it a Prezi employee? Awesome presentation. What software were you using? That would be Prezi, right?
All right, 172, 144. So who did one? What was your trick? 3 pens. There we go.
Three of them.
So in general, the trick is to collaborate as closely as you can. All right? Getting close. All right? The teams that are willing to really come together, all right? Reduce the risk of dropping the pen. Because here's the thing, it doesn't matter how fast you are, all right? Let's take coding. No matter how fast you're coding, all right, if you introduce a Sev1 defect, it doesn't matter how fast you went. All right? That release will be pulled from production the minute it goes out. All right? So the trick to getting the high scores is to maximize the collaboration and at the same time minimize the risk. Stop the ability to drop the pen. All right? Have someone whose job there is to catch the pen at the very, very bottom. All right? But there's all sorts of different ways you can make it work.
This is an interesting one. Do you agree that if enough agile organizations place customer satisfaction first, that would lead to a lot of nonprofit agile orgs?
No, I don't agree. Sorry. Yes, strictly speaking, there would be more non-profit agile organizations. But agile organizations aren't about being non-profit. Being customer-centric, putting the customer first, isn't about being non-profit. As I said, making money is good. Right? Making a profit and revenue is important. We need to do that in order to continue to do what we're doing. But think about what products and services your company makes. You don't make those products and services solely for the purpose of making money. You make those products and services because there's a market niche, there's a customer who wants them. You need to continue making money so you can continue to do that.
So you're promoting organizing around the customer experience to avoid the Conway's Law
Correct.
issue. Yeah, okay. Why are you sorry for having been a project manager?
So, Anonymous, come up and have a chat to me after this. I'm currently writing a book called No Projects. And I can give you a draft if you're interested. The reason why no projects and project management is a problem is projects focus on the wrong thing. Projects focus on the product. It focuses on time, cost, scope. They do not focus on customer value, and they do not focus on the outcome that you're trying to achieve. So the emphasis on projects and project management in the world today has actually led to a lot of very bad behaviors and bad cultures and mindsets in organizations. And if you are interested, I will share the draft of the book with you. Just come up and give me a card.
Great. Jofi asks, what do you think will be the hot topic for organizations after the Agile story?
So first of all, I try not to use the word agile too often. I use the word agility because agile is a manifesto. Agile is systems and processes and practices and ways of working. Agility, there is nothing after agility. Right? Agility, like any other descriptive phrase, describes how your organization exists. You exist in a state of agility, a state of adapting and changing to the market. There is nothing after that.
All right. And we have time for one more. Selling product licenses to a large enterprise typically takes 6 to 18 months. How to make due diligence, legal processes, etc., those sorts of activities agile.
Okay, so as an ex-IBM employee, I understand this one very well. So there's a couple of ways. So first of all, you need to understand agile contracting and agile procurement. We would work with our clients in Asia, because I was based in Singapore. We would work with our clients in Asia to help their procurement teams to be more agile. Right? Because as far as IBM was concerned, if you wanted something done in an agile way, if you're not willing to buy it in an agile way, you're doing it it's completely wrong, flawed at the end of the case. Legal agility is something that exists. It's the ability for lawyers and the legal profession to be more, to take more of account into trust, take more into account around ownership and accountability, and the fact that what you're asking for today is not necessarily what you need tomorrow. And so those contracts and those software licenses have to be built in such a way that allow for variation. I've just got the bell, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Devin. Got a little gift for you here.
Oh, that's awesome.